So, jazz chords. Hey, so I want to talk a little bit about playing chords with guide tones, which basically means we're going to play chords that have the root in them and then the third and the seventh. Because if you play the root and the third and the seventh, you can hear the whole harmony, meaning where you are in the harmony. And then we'll talk about adding color tones to these. Some people call these chord shells or whatever, but the basic idea is that we're going to have chords that have the root of the chord and the third of the chord and the seventh, and we're going to look at jazz's most famous chord progression, which is the 2-5-1. And because it is the god of all keys, we're just going to do the key of C. So here we go. All right. So let's see. Let me just do. Hey, if I put the root here on the A string. So there's D. And then let me just outline the roots. And then G. And then C. D, G, C. Okay, so if you get a chart which calls for, D minor 11, G, G7 alt 1342, and C major Yamama, like, you don't have to play any of that. You can just play this. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what those chords are. If you're the guitar player in a big band, jazz band, now eventually you will, but let's say you're sight reading it, you're in there the first day and they're like, so you just play these shell chords. You just go, oh, D minor, G7, and C major, C major 7 probably. Unless it says 6th, and then we'll play the 6th. But the beauty of these things is that, especially with the 5 chord, the G chord, we're not going to play the 5th. So if it's a G alt chord, which has usually a flat, maybe a flat 5, maybe a sharp 5 in some special circumstances, and some other tones, you're leaving all those color tones out. So whatever you play, you won't be, goodness gracious, no, you won't be making a mistake. Okay, so to get these, let me show you, I guess the shells or the guide tones, so closest to the root. So there's the root, G, C, D, G, C. And so we're going to play the third and the seventh. So there's the third, that's F. A D minor 7th chord has D, F, A, C. So we're going to play D, F, and then we're going to skip that A, and we're going to play C. So that's a very common shell voicing. We might call it close position because all of the notes are within 1 octave. And then what we want to do as we go from the D minor 7th to the G7 chord is to voice lead the notes. So, and that's what's fun about these shell chords, is that we have what these called guide tones. If I leave the root out so you can see, I've got F and C, and I'm going to go into F and B, because in the guide tones, what changes from the D minor 7 to this G7 chord is just that one note. So you can play it like that. You could play also, you may play this with your thumb. So that's E string, F, D string, G string, F on the D string. So and then that's C major 7. So there's G7. So I'm playing C, the root, and then the third and the 7th. D minor 7, G7, C major 7. So the thing that I want to observe about that as well is the first chord has the third on the bottom of the guide tones and the 7th on the top of the guide tones, the higher of the guide tones. The second chord has the 7th on the bottom of the guide tones, and then the third was the higher note. This is G, and then there's your F, and then there's your B natural. So they swap. And when you're going around the circle of fifths like this, that's what happens. This third and the 7th are constantly changing places. And you're a really good singer, Zach. So like you could also, once you've recorded, like play some of these down and record them, sing all the parts, sing the bass part, sing the guide tones. That is a great thing to do because you will internalize the harmony, and then it will very much help your chording and comping, but also your soloing. So it's a very common technique for learning chord changes. Sing the parts. Okay. Hey, let's do that. Da, da, da. That's what makes it jazz, because in classical music you would do this. Ba, makes it jazz. Da, da. But it ends on a standing dissonance. Oh, egads. Okay, so da, da, da. So we'll call that the soprano part, and then we'll do the tenor part or the alto part. Let's say. So this one is do, do, do. Or if I sing the solfege of it, it's fa fa mi do re mi fa sol la ti do. Right, and this one was do ti ti. Really, it's great to hear that resolution of do ti do, because that is sort of implied, and then resolving to that major seventh chord is the surprise. Like I said, it sort of makes it jazz. Okay, so we did the soprano part, and then we did I'll just do the tenor part again, or the alto part, the middle part. Fa fa mi, and then of course the bass part. Re so do. Great stuff to do. Also, while you're doing that, a really good thing to do is play the two parts you are not singing. So if I do that, I go do ti do ti a. Yeah, there's a flatted seventh for you. I'll do that again. Do ti do. And there you hear the T. It's jazz. Okay. All right. So let's see. Oh, a couple other things I should say is that I'm resolving to the major chord, but you could also resolve. It will often resolve to the minor or the dominant in case of blues. So I guess I'm going to do dominant first. So there's D minor 7, G7, C7. Okay. And many more. So sing the parts. The only one that changed was do ti da. Sounds a little bit more bluesy. And you might hear that like a good example of that is if you're playing some blues. F7, C7. Oh, hold on, we need G minor 7. Oh, let me show you this. Just to do it in this key. Let's see. This form. I need this C7. If I do this, oh look, I have the G7 here. Let me come back to this. Let me do a bunch of chord examples and then I'll put it in some context. Fine. D minor. The other thing that it's worthwhile showing, D minor 7, G7, C6, which in this context, because it does not have a fifth in it, is really an A minor triad. But because you're hearing the D minor 7 and the G7 first, the ear and the listener's ear is going to hear that as a C6, chord. Okay, so you can repeat this process with the other likely candidate for these quote unquote shell chords. Oh, actually, there's two more. What I'm going to do is for this next one, I'm going to change the distribution of the chord, meaning the the order of the parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take of this first D minor chord, I'm going to pop the F up an octave. So now I've got D, C, and F like this as opposed to D, F, and C. And again, I want to voice lead them. So there's D, C, F, D, B, and F, D, C, B, and E. D, C, F, G, B, F, C, B, E, like so. You could make that into dominant, G7, right? Or you can also make it minor. I didn't do that on the other one, shame on me. You can go to C minor. While I'm on that take, I should do that here. You can probably figure that out. And the beautiful thing about that is, though, that even though you'll have some different extensions in the key of C minor, or when you're resolving to a minor tonic, you can still play that C minor 7th, or even just a triad. Now, one thing that's worth talking about while I'm on the minor, there's C minor 7th. You could there's C minor major 7. What? Or C minor 6. Let's listen to them in context. C 2-5 in C minor. That's a good one. If you're not really sure, and it doesn't tell you much about the extensions in the chart, just play the triad. And you can always, if in the heat of the moment, you're confused about, oh, how do I voice lead that? You can hop to another voicing, just straight up C minor, Oh, I forgot. Okay, fine. Play a triad, you'll be out of the way, and then the next time you read through the chart, you can think it through. Major, dominant, minor. Good enough for tonics right now. A couple of versions of the major, either the major 7 or the major 6. So let me do those here. D minor 7, G7, C major 7, D minor 7, G7. Ring finger's not doing anything. Just hard to get him out of the way. G7, C6. Again, that's an A minor triad. First finger, second finger, fourth finger. Sing the parts. Sing each path on each string. Okay, to the dominant, to the minor 7th, and then to the minor major 7. And then to the minor 6, D minor 7, G7. I think the minor 6 is my favorite for a resolution to a minor 6 chord, or to a minor tonic. Okay, so this was all in the same position with the roots moving on the A and E strings. And now I just want to do the same thing, but actually starting, I guess it's germane to say, starting with the root of the chord on the A string. But if you move up here and you play, okay, we're going to play now D, G, C. So we're going to move the location, and we had 2 locations down here with the guide tones on the D and G strings, and then on the G and B strings. Okay, so then up here, I'm going to now play, and let me show you 1 finger per string. There's our D minor 7. Oh, wait, actually I need to do it. You hear the same chords that we heard before. This is the same. Right? Except, oh, what am I going to do? I can't voice lead all the parts. So we're going to start with this inversion and move that up. So it ends up being root, 7th, 3rd, right? And then root, 3rd, 7th, root, 7th, 3rd. As I said, they flip. Root, 7th, 3rd, root, 3rd, 7th, root, 7th, 3rd. So there's D minor 7, G7, C major 7. D minor 7, G7, C7, the dominant form. D minor 7, G7, C6. And then D minor 7, G7, C minor 7. And then D minor 7, G7, minor major 7. Spy movie music. D minor 7, G7, C minor 6th, C, A, E flat. Okay, then we can flip all of those. Like again, they take the middle part and just pop it up an octave. So now we'll take that middle voice and put it there. What? It's sort of tricky to do it this way. It's aside from finger picking is really the only way to do it. I guess you could do it with your thumb, right? For whatever reason, I don't actually do this one that much. Okay, there's D minor 7, G7, C7. D minor 7. Oh yeah, there you go. You can do it that way. First finger, second finger, fourth finger. G7. C major 7. Perhaps one of the reasons we don't do it this way all that much. D minor 7, G7, C7, D minor 7, G7, C6. Okay, D minor 7, G7, C minor 7, D minor 7, G7, C minor major 7. Oh, too hard. Never gonna do that. Maybe Alan Holdsworth will do that. We'll leave it to him. C minor 6th. So there's my favorite minor major 6th again. Okay, so we were talking about, oh, there's all these fancy extensions, etc., etc. The beautiful thing about these shells is you learn these shell voicings with the 3rds and the 7th in them, and while you're trying to figure out what the extensions mean, you can play these shell voicings and not make any mistakes. And then with a lot of these, you can add extensions on top of them. I'm just going to do a few. I'm going to let you get a hold of the shell voicings, and then maybe next week or time after that, we'll talk about those things. So let's do this one. Oh, look. So there's D minor 7th. Well, you can add the 9th to it. So now this is D minor 9. If you remember, we also did this D minor 7th voicing like that. So it's really going from the minor 3rd of the chord down to the 9th. And now I've got 4 voices in my chord. So there's D minor 9. And then if I keep that voice the same, now I've got 4 voices in my chords, right? Oh, now I've got the 13 because it's a 6th above G, which makes it the 13th of the chords. And now, we'll do C major 9. All right, so see that. Where did I start with? D minor. Yep, G13, C major 9. You could do C6 9, which is like adding that C6 with the 9th to it. I would probably do that one. Either one. Now, that works great for major and for dominant. C minor 9, or D minor 9, sorry. G13, C6 9, or C9, root 3rd, 7th, 9. But what if you're in a minor key? Well, then you have to think about flatting some of these extensions. So in a minor key, you won't have that because, oh, hey, we're in C minor. It's not going to be an E natural. It's going to be E flat. So you're going to have that, the flat 13. So this is D minor 9, maybe. In fact, you might even in a minor key have that in jazz, the minor 9th. But just listen to this. Oh, it's beautiful. So now you have this melody that starts to sound like jazz. A little bit. So there's, D minor 9, G7, flat 13. And a lot of jazz, what it does is there's a lot of borrowing from minor on the 5 chord. That's really the key. Also borrowing from Phrygian, but I'm not going to get into that today. But so, people will call this altered, right? Because you're borrowing from the parallel minor key, which creates a lot of what we hear in that jazz sound. Okay, C6 9, D minor 9, G7 flat 13, C7, C9. Again, D minor 9, C7 flat 13. Oh, this sounds kind of tricky. There's your C minor 6 with the 9th on top. And it's not too bad. Let's see if I go just slide the 4th finger down and pivot on it. You can see it really that really starts to sound like jazz now. Okay. What else can we do from that one? One other thing about that, in a minor key, we're just saying we wouldn't necessarily have that major 3rd in there. So what would I do with that? Maybe just get out of the way and I would actually double the 3rd, which is kind of a no-no, but it'll work. And it creates a nice melody over the top. Plus, as you get into actually voicing these chords for playing, we don't necessarily need to voice lead them. The guide tones that I was showing you are about helping you learn the harmony. But if I wanted to play this in a minor key, I might actually play this. It's a D minor 11. So I've actually moved off the 3rd on the D string. And now I'm borrowing my 1st finger at the 5th fret, and then adding my 2nd finger at the 6th fret. And then that G7 13 we were playing a minute ago, and then C minor 6 9. Now listen to that. Starts to sound very, very jazzy. And you could play all of that. If you're having a bad day and you can't remember all these voicings, you just play and let the big band take care of the rest. Okay. We'll come back and do some more of that. I can't emphasize it enough that so much of the jazzy sound that we get is 2 things. Adding these extensions to it, so 9ths and 13ths and 6ths and all this stuff. But the other thing that's so much a part of it is on the 5 chord, on the dominant chord, borrowing from the parallel minor key. Like, that's a huge part of jazz harmony. And of course blues harmony, which is a different thing, tuning septimal 7ths and things like that. But if you work on your minor key stuff and those things and your major key stuff, and then play around with borrowing from minor or that dominant, you'll get a lot of the sound. And I can't emphasize enough as well, sing the parts, sing the parts, sing the parts.
Yeah,